March, which is Women's Month. And in honor of that, every Thursday in March, I'll be discussing some issues that women face while at work. Today, we're looking at a very interesting topic that tends to affect women between the ages of 45 and 55. At about this age, many organizations will experience a quiet but measurable shift in their leadership pipeline. So, experienced female leaders will begin to either step back, slow down, or exit the workplace altogether. And usually, we assume this problem to be due to burnout, changing priorities, or even lack of confidence. Yet, in occupational health practice, there's a consistent underlying factor which usually goes unaddressed. This factor is menopause. Menopause sits directly at the intersection of physiology, performance, and retention. So you can see it's not just some marginal well-being topic that you discuss during staff week or any other wellness retreat at work. No, it's not something that women come to work and leave at home. No, they come to work with menopause, and it's important for us to understand how to manage the issues that will come together with this physiological process and how organizations and industries can better support women while they're going through this phase. So, what is menopause? Menopause is medically defined as the absence of a period for 12 continuous months. So, 12 months unbroken without a period. But before this, there's another phenomenon called perimenopause. This tends to occur in the years leading up to menopause, and it begins, say, around early to mid 40s, but it might even start earlier. Some people have reported having their perimenopause start around their late 30s. So, looking at these years, they coincide with peak leadership responsibility. Many women at about this age are operating at board level, they're holding regulatory accountability, they are managing complex teams, they're carrying significant strategic influence, and at the same time, they're experiencing hormonal fluctuation. Hormonal fluctuation can affect sleep quality, can affect thermoregulation, can affect cognitive sharpness, and even energy stability. So you see that it's two very critical periods in women of that age's life, because on this one end they're at the peak of their career, on this other end they're experiencing these changes, you know, that have crept in over the years, and I've seen them have attendant issues that may affect their work quality. Now let's look at some of these issues and how they can affect women at work. So sleep disruption alone has a measurable impact on working memory, your attention control, your decision-making speed. Many women around menopause would describe episodes of brain fog or slower recall. So you hear women saying things along the lines of, I have menopause brain, or they come to see you in clinic and they're like, Doc, am I having dementia? Is this how dementia starts? Is this Alzheimer's? My mom also had this. What is this? Why can't I seem to remember things? Why does my mind seem very hazy? I'm not performing at the same level that I used to. Imagine having all these problems in a high-stake environment where precision and pace are expected to remain constant. Even a subtle shift can be misinterpreted. And from an organizational perspective, the cost of that misinterpretation will accumulate. Another issue is presenteeism. So presenteeism is when you're physically present, but you're not fully functional. This tends to increase in menopausal women. Most women will be present at work, but they will operate below optimal efficiency due to fatigue or discomfort. They might also be absent from work on some days because, they need to go for medical consultations during these times. Now, imagine if these normal physiological changes are internalized as personal inadequacy. That's why over time, some women will now begin to reconsider their long-term career trajectory. And the cumulative effect of all of this is attrition at precisely the stage when institutional knowledge is deepest. And that has the most strategic implications. So women In most organizations and even in industries, career women at this age, they often anchor culture, they sponsor emerging talent, they carry corporate memory. Replacing that experience is both expensive and destabilizing. And one thing that tends to baffle me a lot is that menopause is a universal biological phase. It's not a surprise, it's not a disease. It's universal. It occurs in UK in the same way it occurs in Nigeria, in Cameroon, in Kenya, world over. Yet many organizations will operate as though performance capacity should remain physiologically static across the decades, or as if the menopause caught them by surprise. So you're expecting a woman who came into work at 25 to operate at the same level as when she came in, as now that she's 45. It's simply impossible. And in every other domain of risk management, predictable variation is planned for. So financial cycles are forecast, supply chains are stress tested, market volatility is modeled. All these things happen in risk management in all other aspects of the organization. So why not human physiology? Human physiology deserves the same level of operational intelligence. It does. So what organizations should be thinking about is the ways by which they can support women at work. And I will list a few of my suggestions. The first is leadership should be accountable. And this accountability begins with data. Boards should understand their attrition patterns by age and gender band. A mid-career drop in female retention is rarely random. Look at the age at which women tend to drop out of work and versus men at that same age, and look at ways by which you can prevent this from happening. Be proactive in that accountability, but you can only do that with good data. Secondly, managers should be equipped and knowledgeable. I'm not saying your line manager should undergo medical training, but they require literacy, an understanding of common symptoms, confidence in conversation, clarity around adjustment pathways that can be applied to menopausal women. Without that, silence will persist. And when that silence persists, it will simply amplify workplace misunderstanding. The third way is having a clear menopause policy that is established for both legitimacy and consistency. Organizational implementation of this policy also should be both measured and pragmatic. This policy can contain even the smallest of adjustments. Let's take, for instance, flexible environmental adjustments, such as temperature considerations. Something as little as that can reduce unnecessary discomfort and help women that are going through menopause be more comfortable at work so that they can perform at their best. A fourth way is early referral pathways to OH to help prevent escalation. Also, flexible scheduling during periods of significant sleep disruption. This will help protect performance continuity without lowering the standards. Thankfully, the concept of work from home is here to stay. So most women, when they undergo these periods of sleep deprivation or they're having some sort of discomfort, the workplace is, even the mood swings that come with menopause, you just don't want to be around anybody, you're cranky, and all those things. If they're able to work from home, if policies like that are supported for women and it's not seen as she's having too many absences from work, they're actually accommodated, you will find out that more women will stay in workplaces, more women will stay at work, and more women will be able to be comfortable doing their jobs. So you will get better performance from women around this age. I think for me, the most important points in all of the points I've raised regarding how women can be supported at work is this one I'm about to talk about. Menopause should be normalized within leadership discourse. Men should show interest in these topics. Women are not working in isolation. They work in an environment that contains both men, women, and in some societies, other gendered people. So everybody should be knowledgeable about menopause. When senior women see this topic acknowledged at an executive level, it will help reduce the stigma and it will preserve their confidence. The objective of having this discourse is not accommodation in abstract. No, it's not okay, they're going through menopause, let's just help them. No, the idea here is to preserve performance stability. Senior women navigating menopause are usually at the height of their professional authority. Retaining them will help protect succession planning, will help regulatory continuity, and even provide strategic depth. So ignoring the issue of, creates avoidable variability in output and engagement. Menopause is predictable. It didn't just the event did not just fall from the sky. It's predictable. Its impact on work is manageable. Attrition during this phase is neither inevitable nor mysterious when you examine it through a clinical and organizational lens. So for boards and senior HRs, the decision is straightforward. You either treat menopause as a private matter that is left to individual coping strategies, or you integrate it into risk, retention, and leadership design frameworks. One of these approaches preserves institutional knowledge, the other gradually erodes it. The question for modern organizations is whether they tend to design for predictable human realities or whether they will continue absorbing preventable loss at the height of female leadership influence. In governance terms, this retention strategy discussion is grounded in OH evidence and it deserves that level of seriousness and maturity. Some countries like UK are beginning to look at the topic through legislative lens. A lot of discussion has gone on in 2026 between the UK government and OH bodies. So that level of seriousness and maturity is required as regards menopause and women at work. When you design intelligently for menopause, what you're doing is you are respecting the women at work. A design for menopause is an act of strategic respect for experience, for leadership continuity, and for long-term organizational strength. Because remember that women usually anchor the workplace. So organizations that understand this will not simply retain their women, they will also be retaining excellence. See you next Thursday when we discuss our next topic affecting women